Hi, I'm Linda and I'm here to show you how to make some really easy costumes for our Back to Bethlehem War Christmas party. First, for your children, we're going to use Becky as my model. All you need to make a costume for a young child is a pillowcase. If you have a solid color or striped pillowcase that you don't want anymore, or you can buy one at Goodwill for about 99 cents. It's really easy. All we're going to have to do is cut out the scoop for the neck and for the arms, and then get a tie around the waist. Now for Becky here, she's 7 years old. You can tell this pillowcase is kind of too short for her. A king size pillowcase is actually just the right size for her, but I don't have one that I want to cut up, so I'm going to use this one instead. So you lay it down on a table or on the floor, and to cut out the neckline, you want to first find the center by folding it in half and making a mark with a pencil or a pen. And then, to find out how wide to make the neckline, the easiest thing to do would be to get a shirt that they have already, kind of centered around that center mark, and make marks of where the neckline should go to on the ends. Then you get some scissors, and you cut out a scoop. Not a really wide scoop, because remember it's going to be the front and the back, so just a really narrow scoop for their head. Okay, now that's not going to be big enough for their head, but if you just grab the front and cut it down just a little bit, 2 or 3 inches, they're going to be wearing a shirt under this anyway, just so that they can fit that over their head properly. This way it won't hang off their shoulders, and it actually looks better with the cut in the front anyway. Now for the arms, you want to go down about 6 inches. And you don't want to scoop it out because you want it to hang over their shoulder like it looks like a sleeves. And so I'm going to go just 6 inches down, cutting off as less as possible. For here it's just the seam. Then I'm cutting off on both sides. Just barely cutting stuff off. There. And then you put it on your child. So Becky will stand right here. And let's put this over her and see what it looks like. Put your arms in there and see if that thing is cut it off. Okay. Now, for a tie around the waist, there are several things. If the pillowcase is already kind of too long for them, like it's a really young child, it's great to just cut this bottom part off and then cut it right here, and you can use this as a tie around the waist. That looks good. Another option, if you look over here, you can use either twine, or I took some twine and braided it. I like the effect of that. It's just 9 pieces of twine. I cut it 60 inches long and braided it with 3 pieces of twine in each part of the braid. So that looks great. Or you can use rope, or you can just use fabric scraps like this. So that works great for a belt. So Becky, come over here. Actually, I need to try my feet. Stand over here. You don't want it to be tight, sweetheart. We want it to be loose and baggy, okay? Because they didn't have tight clothes back then. And just tie it around their waist, like that. All right, for the headdress, there are different things that you can do. Kitchen towels are generally too small, and bath towels are generally too thick. And so one thing that you can do is get this type of towel, called a flour sack kitchen towel. They sell these at Target or at Walmart. They're about $1 a piece. They come in packets of 4 or 5 or 2. And here's one that I have already opened. And you can just use it over their head. They're lightweight and they're about 30 by 30, so they're about the right size. So you can do like that, and turn on, Becky. You can pin it in the back if you want, or you can just get your fabric scrap or your twine or your rope and put it around their head, covering your face, and tie it. So, and that will be a nice headdress for your child. Now, if you want them to have a robe over this, another option if you just want to go further in the costume is you can take another pillowcase, cut out the neck and the arms, but then in the front, just grab the front part of it and make a straight cut all the way down. And then you can put it over it, and it will be an over robe for that if they want to have a second part of the costume. Alright, for the men's costumes, they obviously can't use pillowcases. So for your older boys and men, you can have them wear a solid color t-shirt and some shorts that are about knee length. And then can get a sheet, and you can fold it lengthwise if they're tall, widthwise if they're not very tall. Kind of bunch it up halfway like that. Put it over their shoulder. And get it even front and back. And then we're going to tie it across here. Now the problem with this is it looks kind of like a toga, so we don't want it to look too Greekish. And so you can get another thing of fabric, another, it doesn't have to be fabric, it can be a pillowcase or something else, and drape it across the other shoulder. And then have it on it so when you do your tie around your waist, it keeps it all together, and you can't tell that it's just draped over the shoulder that much. Okay, so that can be the costume for the boys and the men. And then their head, of course, you can use the same kind of headdress as that we used for the children. For the women's costumes, you can wear, or the girl teenager costumes, they can wear a solid color dress, and then you want to get a bigger thing for the headdress to cover up the fact that you're not wearing a full robe as your costume. I'll show you the headdress, and I'll show you what I am going to cover this dress up, but I want to do the headdress first. And you take, this is just a lightweight tablecloth, and put it over my head, like so. And then I get a scrap of fabric or the twine or rope or braided twine and tie it over my forehead like this. And then see if it can drape in front. And then to cover up your dress, to show that it's not a modern looking dress, you can get another tablecloth or a curtain that you have not using anymore, or a big shawl, and you put it under your headdress. And then you can just fold it around yourself like this. The only problem with this is that you won't have your hands really free in the evening. You'll have to always be holding on to your shawl. But this looks kind of back to Bethlehem-ish. So hopefully that'll work and you won't have to sew anything. And on your feet, of course, for the men, women, and children, please wear sandals. Sandals will look the best. If you don't have any leathery looking sandals, then you can even wear flip-flops. I personally think that flip-flops will look better than tennis shoes. So anyway, now some of you may already have costumes around the house that you can use for this, and you don't even have to use sheets and pillowcases and tablecloths. If you have children that were in the Book of Mormon Youth Conference a while ago, then you might still have their costumes hanging around. This is the one I made for Mel because he was in that, helped out. So he'll probably have something like this hanging around. That would just be perfect. This, and then he even had this, he could use this as a sash around his shoulders, around his waist. Oh, and all the men, it would be helpful if they had something to tie around their waist because they're going to be given a cloth sack with gold coins in it. And they're supposed to put it on their girdle. It's called a girdle, the tie around their waist. So you might have some of these. Or you might have a bathrobe that'll work. This one is too small for a girl, a woman. Maybe a 9-year-old child could use this, but you definitely have to wear clothes underneath this. Not the best option, but it's an option that you could use as a robe. You might even have graduation robes hanging around. They make every child get a new one every time they graduate. And it will look more authentic if you have something around kind of covering it up. Some fabrics draped over it with the headdress and maybe something around the waist. It won't look so graduation-ish. Anyway, hopefully you'll be able to get some costumes together that will be great for this party. We're wanting everybody to come. We don't want people to not come because of the costume issue. And it will be a really good experience. Thank you.